Woo-wee! All right, welcome to the Power of Self-Evolution. I am the creator and host, Karen Lovely. Now, I always say this, it's been a while. It's always been a while, but I'm very excited to have my most favorite couple, romantic couple, on the call with me today. Because, well, they're amazing, wonderful, and clearly I work with them individually and together as a couple. And we have so much to share with you today in terms of their successes, their breakdowns, and how much they've been able to dig deep to really see what the breakdowns are, mainly where they're arguing, where they're not listening to each other. And it seems very topical, but yet it's not at all. And so I'm going to explain a lot of that. And that said, welcome, first of all, Cody and Christina. Good morning.
Hey, hey.
Morning.
All right. So, Christina, this is your first time ever doing a quote unquote podcast, but it's just like a call and, it's just the audio. So you're just fine. Also, let's start right out of the gate with the new baby who is now 8 months old. Yes?
Correct.
Yes. So I know we meant to do this shortly after the baby, but
Time flies.
time flies and I'm the one. I've been extremely focused on other things. So it is what it is. So that said, where shall we begin? Christina, in sharing how this work and you really digging deep into self-awareness helped with the birth of Stassi, your third child.
Yes. Maybe Cody can start us with that because I have to give him credit because I was about 5 or 6 days past my due date and starting to kind of get very impatient and lose it a little. And he's the one that so graciously volunteered his call. So maybe he can talk a little bit to that, like what he saw and why he suggested, and then I can go from there.
Okay, Code Man.
Yeah, I think that's a good start. I recognize through this work that, well, first off, this would be her third child, and so being a week past due, you're like, well, shouldn't this child be a week early or so?
Yeah,
And
right.
so since
When
the
are you
baby,
coming?
yeah, since the baby hadn't come yet, we're like, well, what's going on? And so through this work, I was able to notice, I guess, just energy of who she was being, and maybe just some panic that she was holding on to, and not letting go and being free. And so it was probably 5 days past due, and I had a Karen call the next morning to do my private coaching. And I said, hey, wait a minute, let's substitute me and let's put Christina in there. I think she could use it more right now, given the situation and circumstance. And so lo and behold, it's crazy how Christina does a Karen call the next morning and then have the baby that same night or the morning after. And so it's
Yeah.
just a testament to this type of work that we'll get into on this call, I'm sure, of letting go and being free and things kind of falling in place.
So, Cody, let me ask you, what did you see? Like, what was it? Can you remember what it was specifically that you thought, oh, Christina could benefit from a coaching call?
I want to
Oh,
I
go
want to
ahead.
add this little tidbit just because it is so silly, but it was also the week of Christmas. So even though it's just like a holiday, for some reason, I just had a lot of like anxiety and pressure around her coming on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. So it's just so funny because it's something that, I had no control over, but for some reason that was just causing me to be so hung up on. So I just wanted to add that little piece because Poor
Yeah,
Cody. We
well,
had Christmas in between that too. All the hustle
right.
and bustle.
Well, that did not help. It exacerbated the stress. But
Mhm.
really, what was having you be late, because it's true. I mean, in general, you've already had two children successfully, right? That to be late is just a symptom of emotional stress, and it's mostly unconscious. But, a week before Christmas does not help you. It was actually adding more layers of stress, and that's what was causing you to be late with the baby. Yeah. So that's the thing that I cannot stress enough here is it's never ever what meets the eye out in our reality. It's always about the deep, deep depths of the mind that are unconscious to us or subconscious that blocks us from being free, having that sense of freedom, but to just allow things to be what they are. Yes, the body
Mhm.
knows to hang on and tense up and not let go. And sure enough, how can you have a baby? How can you shoot a baby out of your body, right? When you're hanging on so tight. Yeah.
Mhm.
But back to Cody. Code, do you remember what it was that you saw in Christina that you were sensing or your gut told you something here in coaching could help her? I'm just curious. Do you remember?
Well, it's just the panic and the fear and I guess the frenzy is a word that we use often of just not letting go and being free of the circumstance and situation. But
Ah,
yeah, go ahead.
y- no, you said it. You recognize one of your core triggers,
Oh,
frenzy.
okay. Yeah, the frenzy.
Right?
Yeah.
You recognize that and you knew something else was going on,
Well, what
you
was
think?
cool for me is I'm a big justifier, and so it's hard for me to make a decision and move with that firmly. And
Mm-hmm.
when the decision or thought came into my, I guess, forefront, and the night of substituting me for her, I just acted on it. I texted Karen and Christina right away. I said, "Hey, let's do this instead." So instead of dwelling on the thought and thinking on it, it came and it just like struck me to move, and it mobilized me. And lo
Mm.
and behold, I mean, Christina like changed night and day after the call. She was a lot like light. She was lighter, moving lighter each
Mm-hmm.
day or throughout the day,
Mm-hmm.
playing
Mm-hmm.
games with the kids. And it was just a whole, just a different energy shift that you could tell as an outside observer after the call with you, that opened
Mm.
up that space.
Yeah, so I want to go over this very important point is that the moment I knew you substituted Christina in, and then of course she was late having the baby, my intuition said, yeah, she's blocked by something. She has no idea what it is. Had nothing to do with Christmas, had nothing to do with the holiday season, had nothing to do with anything other than, do you remember this, Christina? Is that we had to dig deep to see unconsciously the trauma from
Mhm.
way back when you were pregnant the first time and how it
Yes.
tracked back to your mother
Mhm.
and your family dynamic is what was really the issue. So,
Mhm.
do you remember what we specifically talked about? I mean, you don't need to share any details, but that's the basic premise.
Yes, and I do remember Cody texting, "Hey, do you want to take this Karen call?" And I remember I just like jumped on it because I knew at that moment I was a case for lack of better words, and I just remember, even though obviously I didn't know what was going to come of the call, just that eager feeling like whatever's going on, I'm ready to talk about it and I'm ready to work it out so that I can relax.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't have like the clear conscious thought of what was going on, but even I knew like, okay, this is not a very like free, relaxed energy. I am wound up very tight right now.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. And you were even working with a doula.
yes, yes.
It's
Who,
amazing. Mm-hmm.
yeah, who was the epitome of free,
Uh-huh.
relaxed,
Mm-hmm.
calm energy.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Right. So my point is, and I'm in no way disrespecting the doula. This is how the power of the unconscious is so important.
mm-hmm.
Is she was the epitome. She was the role model of all doulas. And
Yes.
it wasn't working. It
Right.
wasn't working. It won't work. From my perspective, I'm sorry, that's my story and I'm sticking to it because I know my own
Mm-hmm.
life. Is once we targeted the trauma and drama from your past, from way back, yes,
Mm-hmm.
and saw your fears, what you were afraid of, why you were in fear and holding tightly, right? Once
Mm-hmm.
we pinpointed that, you were off to the races. All of a sudden, it was like the parting of the Red Sea. Yes, like
Yeah.
woo, yeah, right. And it was night and day. And the thing I knew, this is what I need to just say it. I said again, Cody, the moment you said Christina's in, the baby's late, I said, oh, she's going to have this baby today after our
Mm-hmm.
session.
She did. She did say that. Even at the end of our call, you were like, intuitively, baby's coming in the next 24 hours.
And sure enough, she did.
Yes.
And yeah, as a matter of fact, I actually thought, okay, someone's going to text me in like 3 hours. That's what I was thinking. But I think it was like 6 or 8, right?
Um, I probably went into labor like very early labor, probably about 6 to 8 hours after the call.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well, that's what we wanted.
but
That's right.
yes, yes. But
Right. We
that
just wanted
early
you.
labor.
Yes, we just wanted you to go into labor. Oh, the other thing, you were what they were going to induce labor if you
Yes,
hadn't.
I about a week past my due date, which was that was only about 2 days away from the time of
Mm-hmm,
our phone call. Um, I was just really not wanting to be induced if I could avoid it. Um,
mm-hmm,
so that was adding a layer of pressure in my mind. And so thankfully we had a phone call Wednesday morning,
mm-hmm.
and she was born Thursday morning. So
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about this. You did not want to induce labor, and I don't. I'm sorry. I'm holistic in healthcare. No, I was like, okay, no, we're not inducing labor, right? And
right.
but it was adding stress, the fear of you not
Yes.
wanting it. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Right?
And just in my particular circumstance, um, the induction was simply just going to be because I was so over my due date. So, of course, if there was a health concern or something, I would be totally open to an induction. But if I could have my perfect situation, I would prefer to not be induced. And that's where I got very maybe fearful and caught up, um, and almost
Mm-hmm.
being counterintuitive, like you said, by stressing myself out even more about Friday's coming, Friday's coming.
I know. And you know what? I love a challenge. I got to tell you,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, game on. Here we go. Yeah. So I remember that. Here's another thing. Ready? This is
Mm-hmm.
hilarious. Cody want to watch football that Friday, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was another
Oh.
thing pissing you off, right? Right, Code Man?
Yeah,
What football was it? Cody had said something like, I'm watching football. Tell me what you said.
I was just joking. It was college football playoffs, and I was like, "Well, hey, let's try to have it before so we don't miss the games."
Okay, Cody. Yeah, Code, and you remember to speak up too, so we can hear you because you have a lot of great things to share. But let's talk about this. You were like, and I don't blame you. I can take both sides. You know what I'm saying? In terms of you saying, yeah, right, Christina? He says to you,
Mm-hmm.
go ahead, Cody, say it to her. And then Christina, what was your actual reaction? So Cody, what did you say
Well, it was
to Christina?
along the lines of, hey, let's try to have it before. If you're going to do the induction, let's schedule it before so that we can watch football, either at the hospital together or after, not be interrupted by it. But, I was kind of passively saying that, somewhat true, somewhat
Yeah.
didn't care. But like, if we can do it and line it up, let's make sure we get to watch these games too.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm sorry, there's nothing wrong with you wanting, whether you get it or not, like that, that's a different story. But, if it were me, I would be like, oh no, I'm not having a baby. I'm riding a horse. You know what I'm saying? Or, oh, if I am pregnant, I'm like, no, we're not doing that till I show, you know what I'm saying? Till I compete.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe we'll talk about it. So I totally get that side. Yes. But Christina, he says that to you. And what are you thinking or saying to yourself, or what happened? The negative
Well,
stuff.
so just some context for the listeners. Or Cody, I heard you call the baby it. We didn't know the gender of the baby before the baby was
Yeah.
born. So
Yeah.
when we say baby or it, it's because it was a surprise. So I just remember being like, if you open that laptop while I'm in labor, I'm gonna lose my mind. um, But I did see the appeal of if the baby was already born. I was like, oh, that would be like a nice little snuggly day in the hospital watching watching football a few days before New Year's Eve. So,
Mm-hmm.
but
Well, what's so interesting is that was a big hot topic on our couples call,
mhm.
or your last couples call, which was actually yesterday, right? The football thing. So
Mhm.
whether you recognize it or not, it is a subconscious trigger for you. Cody and
Yes, for
his love
sure.
affair with football, right?
He
Uh,
does love football so much.
right. But see, a lot of people can relate to this, and there's
Yeah,
nothing wrong with that. So
yes.
we got to see, we want to try to have it all here, just not
Mhm.
mostly simultaneously. Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
But Cody
Yes.
did mention, if you could, right, they would be great.
Mhm.
However, a pregnant woman who's, late and having her baby, a third baby, does not want to hear that. We don't want to
Mhm.
hear that. Like, Cody,
Mhm.
you meant well, right?
Mm-hmm.
But was that something that you say? No, no. Like, it's in your best interest to have either framed it a new way, had a different energy around it, right? Um, but it was said, and that didn't help the situation. And I remember pointing that out. It wasn't about Cody wanting to watch football. You see this again,
Mhm.
another topical situation. It was about, and we won't get too deep into it, but you had a lot of trauma with the former relationship. Yes, because that
Mhm.
was not Cody when you had
Right,
your first
right,
child. That was a
right.
different, right? A different husband and a different
Mhm.
father.
Mhm.
And that was not a healthy relationship.
Correct, correct.
Yes. And it was really the lack of emotional, mental, spiritual support that
For
you weren't
sure.
getting.
I just
Hmm.
wanted I just wanted Cody's undivided attention during labor because I did want to feel supported emotionally and mentally. And it was my third child, but Cody's first. So in
Hmm.
his defense, he didn't know what labor is going to be like. So it is funny to giggle about now. And in hindsight, it was so funny because she came in the middle of the night. So, and she came fast. So I think Cody um, did a great job being there emotionally and mentally. Um, and I don't think either of us expected it to be so fast. So it was a win-win situation for everybody.
Right. You didn't expect it, but in a way, it can be very fast. I remember one of my aunts had a baby in like 20 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. Right. So y'all can say what you want to say about it, but it could be very easy breezy if we're aligned and clear, unconsciously, subconsciously, and consciously. You see this? That's the
Mhm.
key point here. So
Mhm.
there was something else. Oh, it slipped my mind.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to say this too, and I think this was the most freeing part of the call. Like, of course, I had like what I wanted my dream birth to look like, and of course, that outcome is just a healthy mom, a healthy baby.
Mm-hmm.
However, we get there, it really doesn't matter. And so I think that was my best takeaway from the call was just obviously I can want things to go a certain way, but at the end of the day, I felt so free knowing that all I cared about was me being healthy, the baby being healthy, and whatever happened, if I did have to be induced, just whatever ended up happening,
Mm-hmm.
I had let go and I was
Yes.
okay because all I cared about was a healthy mom and a healthy baby. And so that sounds silly, but when you're caught up in like what you want your birth experience to be like, um, that can almost become a trap because it's like you're just adding pressure to yourself. So I loved that when we finished the call, I was like, okay, I know what I want my birth to be like, but if that doesn't happen and I have a healthy baby and I'm healthy, at the end of the day, that's all that matters. And I need to let go of the route to get there.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about this. And well,
Mm-hmm.
I really need to highlight this point. That's brilliant. Yes, exactly right. So we were able to clear your space. We are able to get rid of the garbage, the spam, the toxicity, the
Mm-hmm.
viruses in your unconscious, subconscious mind so that you could become present in what
Mm-hmm.
really matters the most, what the priority is here. It's real
Right.
simple, isn't it? It's crazy. It's so simple. It's like stupid, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's so simple, but you were bogging yourself down with external conditions, circumstances, and the material world. That's what
Correct.
messes up us humans is
Mm-hmm.
focusing more on the external than the
Right.
internal.
Go into
Yes,
that a
and this.
little bit, Karen. I'm curious for me and the listeners. What do you mean by that?
Thank you, Cody. Yes. So what I mean by that is it's never, ever, ever anything outside of ourselves. You were holding tight because of your mind and your perceptions and your thoughts from the past, your belief
Mm-hmm.
systems. Belief systems are our thoughts and perceptions backed by emotions. It all becomes wired in neuronal
Mm-hmm.
patterning, neural networks. We are now bogged down by the algorithm, so to speak, by our habitual thoughts and emotions are already there by default. So it has nothing ever to do with what's going on. But Christina, you were allowing all the external circumstances to dictate your feelings. Yes, your
Mm-hmm.
emotions, your fears.
Mm-hmm.
So now, deeper than that, is you were triggered into some serious unconscious fears from your
Mm-hmm.
past, from what you learned growing up as a
Right.
child. What I say from 0 to 19. And then that first baby came, in your early 20s. So
Mm-hmm.
you see, you're really close to that. And
Right. Still very close.
yes, you had no guidance. You had no one to help. You had no one help
Correct.
you to see what you couldn't see. So, Cody, you
Mm-hmm.
see all this? It was really more about in our minds, what happens is we run this like psycho movie, in our minds. Your brain actually knows to go to what you've known. It makes associations. Oh, pregnancy, labor. Ah, okay. Oh, this has everything to do with the lack of emotional mental support, which actually stems from your parents, all of our parents.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So you don't
Mm-hmm.
even know that. Your brain's going, oh, I have this data. Let me draw up that file. Oh my God, that was way back then. I have that file ready to go. It brings it right up into your conscious awareness. Not
Mm-hmm.
actually, you don't even know it's the file. All you know is you're unconsciously, subconsciously in fear of something you can't see. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So now when we're in that unconscious fear and we don't even know it, it actually stops the signals going from the base of the brain to the front of the brain, behind the forehead. There are no signals, there are no lights, there's no pinging off the tower, so to speak. Yes. And so you have no consciousness. You have no clarity. Uh-oh, we just lost Cody. Hang on.
We lost Cody.
That's all right. Code, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, we just lost you. Are you listening?
I'm here.
Pay
Yeah.
attention. This is the
I got
most important
disconnected.
part, yeah, of this work is to understand, Cody. I'm saying more about what was really going on. It's always in every area of life, not just having a baby, for God's sake. It's like when Cody, when you're breaking down with work, when you're breaking down with the deal, when you know what, things aren't working, or you know, whatever you're doing, your golf game, your poker, whatever we're doing, walking down the street and tripping. I don't believe in accidents, is because something was going on unconsciously and subconsciously that we can't see.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And so when we are triggered and the fear, the fear is insidious. So it's blind, meaning consciously we have no idea. We just think, oh, we're stressed and we're this. No, you were unconsciously in fear. And this will always be the case in whatever breakdown there is. Christina, you're in unconscious fear of not feeling supported, nurtured, cared for, the priority in a time of
Right.
need. That's what it
Yes.
will always come down to. And that had nothing to do with a baby and Cody even. Is you
Mm-hmm.
were actually time traveling back to your past when you felt so unsupported, unnurtured, uncared for by your mother and your father.
Mm-hmm.
You see, so, and this is deep, you were wanting Cody's undivided attention because you never got that. So you felt growing up. Is that true?
Right. Right.
We always all want undivided attention. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because we're empty in that department. We're
Mm-hmm.
feeling a hole there, so to speak, HOLE, as opposed to feeling whole and complete, WHOLE. You see the difference? Yes.
Yes.
Cody, does this make sense when you say more
Oh, yeah,
about
that's
what's,
good.
yeah.
Well, I
So,
wanted,
go
yeah.
ahead, please.
Well, the reason I wanted to do this podcast is just to expose and express this type of work, because as a third party observer, you could clearly see something that's shifted. Even the kids could pick up on. I'm sure the neighbor, the dog, even. Everybody could see a big difference of shift in Christina, and it's the power of letting go through this work and I guess believing that things are going to work out how they should be, and yeah, just letting it go.
Okay, so what I do is I help. So I was helping you, Christina, see what was really going on, and it resonated. You
Yes.
felt, all of a sudden you're like, bing, 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 click, click, click. Yes. You're like,
Yes.
oh my God, that's really what it is. Then I was able to
Mm-hmm.
help you let go of that by explaining and understanding what was really going on behind the curtain, under the hood, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really what happened in our past. Our brain has to hang on to that for survival. You survived it. See, Christina, you weren't happy. You were feeling unsupported that first baby, but you were
Correct.
breathing with a pulse, and your brain's like, oh, we're good. Actually, your brain's not even saying we're good. It's just like, oh, we're breathing with
We're
a pulse.
alive.
Yep, we're alive, breathing with a pulse. Keep going. Don't care if you're happy or you feel good, but your brain's actually thinking you're good. You're right. You understand this? It's
Yes.
so like this, I Code, you really got it right. Thank you for highlighting this, is understanding the deeper phenomenon that's occurring. Because once we can target the unconscious fears, where they stem from, how you got there in the first place, we can put the pieces of the puzzle together. It starts to make sense. And you're like, oh my goodness, right? Then we see how it could be another way. And that makes sense. So then it clears the space. All of a sudden, it gives you the ability to go, oh my God, now I can see my actual reality, which this is where it gets super phenomenal, is all of a sudden, see, Christina, you thought you were with the first husband in this pregnancy in your mind only,
Mm-hmm.
which was really your parents. And then, so you couldn't, you're running that movie. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
About
there's
how you think things are going to play out.
exactly, you couldn't see that your husband has always been there better than
Mm-hmm.
he's ever been for, like most husbands and boyfriends and fiancés will ever be for their significant other. See, then you
Yes.
lose sight of where Cody was showing up for you. Different.
Mm-hmm.
Like you've never seen or heard or had before. You both see that?
Correct.
Yeah,
You
it
couldn't
was new.
see, it was brand new. And the brain misses the brand new. The survival mechanism doesn't want the brand new. It's unfamiliar. It doesn't register.
It wants
It
the
just
old.
Mm-hmm.
passes right on by. What'd you say, Cody?
It wants to revert to the old of what it knows because that's all that it knows.
Exactly. But even worse, it throws out the new stuff. It actually, when we go to sleep at night, the brain throws out anything foreign or faint. Can you believe this? So I'll teach you something, and then the next morning, you forgot what I just said. How was
Yeah,
that?
I was going to add to that is imagine what life would be like for all of us if we can be in that same energy that she was after that call most of the time, if not all of the
Well,
time.
That would be awesome.
that's
um,
what we're training for.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it takes its time. I've been in this coaching work for 4 years, and the last energy shift I saw in an individual was a business partner of mine, Chris. Before
Mm-hmm.
I got into the work, Chris was already doing this for about a year or a couple of
Mm-hmm.
months when I saw the shift. And I just distinctly remember as an outside observer noticing one's energy, and both Chris and Christina on two separate occasions after the Karen call.
Mm. Thank you, Code. Yeah, exactly. And that's why I do this, is because I'm looking for that for myself. Yes. And just teaching it to others. We want that paradigm shift into feeling like we're living a life like it's heaven on earth. That our
Mm-hmm.
circumstances, our reality, our external conditions are irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
It has everything to do with what's going on in our minds and what isn't. Right? So Christina, you couldn't see that you have a husband that is helping you be a better you, first and foremost, by introducing you to this work and coaching, and that he's there with you at the hospital coaching you, like doing the exercises, supporting you. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't see that. You couldn't really internalize that and take it all in, that he's actually showing up better than the ex, your parents, and most human beings in your life.
Right.
Right, Code?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, um, yeah, sure, yeah,
Well,
that
well,
was
that's
good.
an acknowledgement.
Yeah.
That's an acknowledgement to you. You know, you got to remind, that's why we have to do this, is re-presence where you stood out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, you want to watch some football. You know what I'm saying? But like I joke, at least you were like want to still be there in the labor room watching football, as opposed to be watching football, down at the local bar.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like we got to see the good parts. Go ahead.
Well, it's all in the perceptions there, but I was going to add the I lost my train of thought there. Um, oh, it's okay, all good.
Okay. Well, I was just saying for you to see and own, and for Christina to see the good. You can't see the good when
Oh,
you're in fear.
this
Go ahead.
yeah, it's easy to go to the negative first, because
Mm-hmm.
that's what we're trained to do, and that's all that we know. And so what this work is doing is course correcting our fear mechanism to look for the good and notice the good things in life that's right in front of us, because our brain wants to divert right to the negative first.
Yep, excellent point. So let's just review that. Is because the human brain is built for only survival. It's only the conscious mind that can override it, meaning we have to have all the negative stored data ready to go in case it's a threat or it's dangerous and we could possibly get hurt or die.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we focus on the negative first and foremost, predominantly. Yes.
Yeah, and I'm
And
sitting
yeah.
here thinking on this call about the whole letting go
Mm-hmm.
situation because we're just talking in a category of pregnancy. If I
Mm-hmm.
apply this to, say, my career and business, where else can I be letting go throughout the day because I still hang on to my fears and scarcity and, oh no, I'm not going to make it kind of thing. And so this example for me, just listening to the first 20 minutes of the call, is showing me where I can apply it to my own situation and business.
Exactly. And the anatomy is exactly the same. The map, the distinctions are the same fundamentally.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go into that for a moment. Is you hang on. When you're triggered, when things aren't going well, your brain goes, "Oh, see? It's not going well. You're not going to make it." It's actually pulling up all the files from your childhood of where you failed, where you made mistakes, where you didn't make the cut, so to speak, in sports, yeah, in school.
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly the same. So now you're holding on, holding on, holding on. Oh my goodness. Let's talk money. That's our biggest trigger for all humans is right hanging on to because you're in fear, so you're holding tight. So you have to induce labor metaphorically. See that, Cody?
Mm-hmm.
Is like you have to look to see how you can let go. That's what inducing labor is, isn't it, Christina? Right?
Right.
Don't you get a
You got
shot
to
or
get
a
the
drug?
happy hormones
Yeah.
going.
So you can let go.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we can take that same theme, Christina, the priority, just stay present and
Mm-hmm.
be healthy and have a healthy baby. Same thing in business. Just stay present and have a healthy relationship to the transaction, to the coworker, to the partner, to the VA. See that, Cody?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's exactly the same. Underneath,
Mm-hmm.
deep, down. Topically, no, it's not the same at all. So this is so vitally important, and it's every area of life, sports, entertainment, like wherever we're performing or we're in action, this applies over and over again. But I want to go to uh, you two as a couple and your breakdowns, right? Where the two of you aren't listening to each other. You're triggered into your stuff from your childhood. You don't even know it. And you're arguing about things that really don't matter in the end. Yes?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Does anything come to mind for any one of you that you'd like to share here? Let's go with Cody first.
Well,
Breakdown in communication. Yeah.
part of this work is to be able to communicate effectively with first off yourself, just internal talk, but then to your other, and especially the significant other. That's where most of the breakdowns occur when things are more heightened, and we realize that there's stuff that we argue about, like you said, it's topical, and we don't even know why we're arguing, but it's all the unconscious. Luckily we have this kind of work to revert to when we're in these moments and situations to recognize and course correct, and that's part of the conscious evolution that we're taking on right now, because we can control our thoughts if we choose to, and
Yes.
and that's the big takeaway is being able to be intentional by design through this work, because we ultimately are the creator and the producer, and the overrider.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, Christina, you're really great at this. Like thinking of an example of where you two argue about something seems small, but you're so frustrated, and we all can relate to this. Does anything come
Mm-hmm.
to mind you'd like to share to kind of, because we want to look to see the breakdown, but what helps to get to the breakthrough?
Um, I'm trying to think of a good example. Maybe I can't come up with a specific example. Maybe I'm freezing a little bit,
Yeah, that's okay.
but
I'll help you. You know, like the certain things, I mean, it's like this is how this works, like the dishes in the kitchen, putting them in the
oh,
dishwasher, right? Is
yes.
you want it done a certain way. Cody wants to do it
Hmm.
his way, and you two are kind of
Hmm.
fighting over the way the dishes are.
And they're
Yes,
Is that
dishes,
right?
correct, correct.
dishes, Karen.
Yeah, and it's
Exactly.
topical, but it's annoying.
Yes, it is.
So,
But so I want to, okay, so there's things like that, and they're
uh-huh,
all over the place,
uh-huh,
right? But it's never ever about the dishes. I mean, it is a tiny bit, but predominantly it's about how you are not feeling supported. You're not feeling he's
correct.
helping you. You don't
It's
know it at the time. Go ahead.
it's so funny. We were just really, nitpicking each other maybe last week, and like it just got to a point. I think I looked at him and I asked him, I was like, what are we even like actually fighting about? Because we have been not getting along for about 3 days. And I just sat down to think about it. And I honestly don't even know why we're not getting along. And he looked at me and he was like, pretty much like, that's a great question. And obviously, we're still working on it and growing. But even like us coming to that realization, like, wait, we don't even know what we are like annoyed at each other about, was an epiphany moment because it at least helped us be like, okay, we're triggered, something deeper is going on, and we're gonna pause and try to figure out what's going on.
Right. So you just made a very important point is because you're evolving your consciousness, the two of you now know that it's something else that you can't see. Because most
Right.
people say, no, it was the dishes. No, it's the carpooling. No, it's the, he's always working and watching football and he's not spending time with the family and he's not coming to the soccer games.
Mhm.
Isn't right? You know,
Mhm.
you're fighting over things that we all fight over in a relationship and out of a relationship. You're on the phone too much. You're not present. Are you watching the game? Are you here with the kids? Or where are you? Like, hello, you're standing here, but you're not even in the room in your mind.
Mhm.
And I can see it because your eyes are glazed over. Yes?
Mhm.
Is that you both know there's something more, but isn't it ironic? You're fighting for 3 days over the littlest things because I saw the list, right? To prep for your call. And you
Mhm.
two really had no idea what it was. So
Correct.
let's talk about what it really was. Do you either of you want to represence what was really going on?
Well, it's the support and not being heard. It's the lack of support that one feels and
Mm-hmm.
not being heard or listened to. And at the end of the day, the opposite of that is what people are after. They want to be heard and they want to be supported.
Thank you, Cody. Exactly. Like at the end of the day, what it really comes down to is, are you understanding me? Yet you want your significant other to understand you, but that significant other isn't communicating in a way, right? Or, or listening in a way to understand you and vice versa. Sorry, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Is we're standing there with our anybody and we want to be heard and understood. Yes. We want people to understand where we're coming from, yet we're not saying the words that help the other person understand. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Because as we're talking, the other person has their perceptive filters, okay? And they're listening through those perceptive filters from how they see things. So do you see how can anyone really communicate and listen to each other? Did you follow that?
Yes, I think for me, like the hardest part. that I'm having to like learn is to remember to speak to my audience. So in this case, like I'm speaking to how Cody needs to hear things or prefers to hear things. And I remember on a call one time being like, oh my gosh, this is exhausting. And
Yeah.
you giggled because, I have my way of hearing and wanting things to be said, and he has his way. And if I'm trying to get the message through to him, the best way to communicate that with him is how he needs to receive that information. And I think that's been a challenge, but also like probably one of the best like takeaways from a phone call is like remember who you're speaking to.
Right. And try to get in their world or the way that they hear
Mhm.
things and listen. So
Mhm.
this is another great point. That's what couples don't do. Okay.
Mhm.
I say this all the time because I've done it. Like I finally got smart. I was like, oh, wait a minute. Is understanding just the basic premise of the human male and the human female. What's
Mhm.
right is like you want to know your opponent, so to speak, right? Wink, wink,
Mhm.
Cody, opponent. You want to know what you're up against, whom you're playing with. Yeah.
Right.
This is very important. And that's what most people don't do. Like one of the statistics it's for marriage is men spend more time on their golf game than participating in planning the wedding, let alone the marriage. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So it's a communication. And there's the baby.
She wanted to make a guest
There she
You
appearance.
made
is.
a
Yes,
yeah.
there she is. Baby Stassi.
Karen, one thing we didn't
Okay.
talk about real quick, going back to
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
pregnancy, was
Aha.
not only did she let go, but the delivery
Mm-hmm.
was like, I've this is my first birth experience, so I haven't seen anything but this. But I've
Uh-huh.
heard and read of stories where it may, there's complications or it may take longer. I mean, we were in and out of the hospital or in and out of labor in what, 4 or 5 hours total.
Exactly.
Really. And well, that's actually a little longer, but um early labor was at the house. And I mean, I think we got to the hospital around 4 no, actually around 4:45 a.m. and
Mm-hmm.
baby was born 3 hours later.
Oh,
So,
With no,
yeah,
yes.
at
and it was a
the
natural birth too, and that's one thing I wanted to bring up was the prep that Christina put
well,
in.
unmedicated.
Unmedicated
Yeah.
with no epidural, and um, I give credit to the preparation that she put herself through with this work in the doula and getting her mind
Mm-hmm.
right to have a natural, or I
Mm-hmm.
guess a non-medicated birth. Being in the hospital at 4:45 and birth at 7:46 or 7:42.
Mm-hmm.
7:46. You
7:46, yeah.
had it. You nailed it on the head.
Um, I mean, it's just a testament to the prep work and that she put into this.
Yeah, like I'm just thinking here because I'm an entrepreneur. I could have a full blown business just helping women have babies on time.
Mm-hmm.
See
Yeah.
this? So, um, or early if need be.
Well, and even like I said, my biggest takeaway from it, regardless of the timing, was just walking away walking away from our phone call with the freedom of I have in my head how I want this to go. But again, when I got off the phone with you, it was nothing else matters except that I'm healthy and the baby's healthy. And
Mm-hmm.
like just as someone that's had 3 babies, like there can be a lot of like pressure for birth to look a certain way. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think personally, whether baby's late or early, just that comfort of like remembering at the end of the day when I got off the phone, the only thing that matters is that I'm healthy and this baby's healthy. And whatever that path to get baby here looks like doesn't really matter. Only the end goal matters. And to me, that's the most freeing, whether baby's late or early. Just
Mm-hmm.
being like, I'm going to do everything I can to set myself up to have the best birth I can, but I know what really matters at the end of the day.
Exactly, which we get lost in our material world.
Yes, and the irony of all of that is when I finally had that like epiphany, even though it's funny that that's an epiphany because
It
it's so
is.
simple.
No, it's an
Once I had
epiphany.
that epiphany, and later that day, I started, early labor. But it's just funny because, at 4 a.m. when I was like, hey, we should probably go to the hospital soon. And we get to the hospital, I was worried about all of these things and Cody and how much attention and this and that. And in the end, I got perfectly what I wanted. I got to the hospital, got in a hot shower, labored in the shower for about almost 3 hours, and Cody just pulled up a little step stool and just sat right next to the shower and set up my
Oh,
little birthing lights and
yeah.
just was there. And that's just ironic because that's what I wanted and that's exactly what I got. But
Mm-hmm.
in my head, I'd made up this whole story about, oh, Cody's going to be watching football during labor and he's going to be distracted. And that was just all the story that I told myself. And
Right. And with those stories, we emit that energy, and the radio
mm-hmm,
frequency can go for you or against you. So here's the
mm-hmm,
thing. Cody already noticed there's a problem. He knew what would make the difference, radically make the difference. That worked.
mm-hmm,
He felt the shift. He saw it. He felt it, right,
Mm-hmm.
Code? After the
mm-hmm,
call. So that magnetizes him toward
Mm-hmm.
you more,
mm-hmm.
and you don't even know it because you're not in a state of frenzy, which is one of his
Mm-hmm.
triggers. You see it?
Right.
Frenzy's going to repel, right?
Mm-hmm,
Free is going to bring people closer, the
mm-hmm.
people that you want who get it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what shifted to is then Cody
Mm-hmm,
could feel the energy. He's like, oh, okay, this is fun. This is good. This is freeing. Like,
How do
I'm
we do
in.
this every day?
mm-hmm,
Exactly. Well, this is how. And when I say, Cody say the work, it's like, it's not work. It's just evolving consciousness. Right. And it is. The word you used, Christina, was disturbing. That one, wasn't it? Like this disturbing how hard this is, isn't it?
or
Wasn't
oh,
it?
what word did I use?
I thought it was the word
I don't know if I,
disturbing. It was a big word, but you nailed it.
yeah, it
It
takes a
was
lot of work to
no, it
speak to your
takes everything.
partner.
It takes everything you got, and you think you're not going to make it, but it's so worth it. You understand? It have to be worth it because nobody would ever do it. But the
Mm-hmm,
reality is, very few. Like if you look at the big numbers in the population of the world, the numbers are very small. Evolving
mm-hmm,
consciousness is so tricky, and in a lot of ways, as a clock ticks, it gets virtually impossible to do. So
mm-hmm.
that's where you get the saying, can't teach an old dog new tricks. Okay, but let's stay focused. Cody, the point you made, no drugs, easy peasy. You know what I'm saying? Yes, that's how it always can be.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's so crazy
She crushed it. She
is,
did an exceptional
yeah.
job for those 3 hours and with no medicine.
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh. I
it was
know.
just, I mean,
That's
I have
amazing.
nothing to compare it to other than the stories that I see. And usually you hear about bad stories before you hear about good stories. But it was just,
Mm-hmm.
she was an A player. And it just showed me how, um, really who she is as a person and what she can do if she just steps forward and tries.
Yeah. Like, if I were a Kardashian, I would hire you as my surrogate, Christina. So, right. And so that's really what it is once you're just out of your own way, Christina, you were free to play. You were free
Mm-hmm,
to execute. You were free to, you were free to easily, with the least amount of effort, have a third baby.
mm-hmm,
Imagine that in every area of life. And it can be that way. However,
mm-hmm,
your brain is going to go, no, I don't recognize this. I have no data points, no reference points. This is foreign to me. Stop, stop, stop. Too good to be
mm-hmm,
true.
mm-hmm,
Cody, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
Cody, you always want to like have this all the time, have this all the time. No, it's not have it all the time. Is just create it in the moment, in the most present
Mm-hmm.
moment. And that's how you get it most of the time.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the future, because the future is an extension of your present, of your right now. Whatever's happening now in the present will be your future.
Mm-hmm.
But we do, Christina, you said it. We set the intention. You wanted the labor, the birth. We want the business transaction. We want the business. We want, the relationship to go a certain way. We set that intention. We want our next horse. I set my intention. But what really matters is I'm happy now. I can be responsible and accountable now. I'm happy now. It doesn't matter what happens in the future. That's what you're really saying, right, Christina? Is that
Correct.
you set your intention and then you let it go. You let it go. If it happens, great. If it doesn't, great. That's the thing. You came out of the session with me. I'm just a messenger, right? And you were like, whatever. Right, Code? She was like, whatever.
It was a whole new Christina.
Whatevs. Yeah, it was. It wasn't the uptight fear, gotta control, right? I'm scared to death. You all need to support me. It wasn't that person. It was like, hey, let's play some games. What's up? I'd almost have a beer right now, but I'm pregnant. Okay. Right, Code? Right? She's almost like, hey, Code, you want to watch some football?
I said football.
Who are you? Football? What? That's when you know you've arrived in the relationship.
Well,
go ahead, Christina.
I think I just wanted to add this because this is like another like skill that we've worked on, just like our inner dialogue in my head. So while I was labor in the shower, I had read, because I need to clarify, I've had 2 babies before this, but this was my first unmedicated. Like I'd had an epidural the 2 times before.
Right.
So this was my first experience without. So 3rd baby, but there were a lot of new things for me. So I had read multiple times that like, when the baby gets close to being born, like it's very normal for mom to be like, man, I don't know if I can do this. And just like if that happens to you, like take comfort knowing that the baby's probably going to be born soon. So I had read that. Well, I was in the shower. The last probably 45 minutes was pretty intense. And I looked at Cody and I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And in my head, though, I was like, no, ma'am, we are not saying that. The good news is that this means the baby's close and you've got this. And so in my mind, I just started doing all this positive self-talk and like trying to relax myself. But it's so funny. When Cody and I talked after, he was like, when you said that, like I got a little nervous. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot. You couldn't hear my inner self dialogue that after I said it out loud, I was doing internally in my head. And I was like, but I had it in my head. I was like, I knew I had it. I took that as a good sign, like, okay, yay, we're getting close. But it just, I giggle about that a lot now because Cody only heard that one word, exactly. And then everything else was my internal dialogue with myself of, no, you got it, you're almost there, keep going.
Right. Is that funny? Why didn't you say that part out loud? Why?
Because I think just from the actual labor standpoint, it is so intense that I'm surprised even the first part came out. It just took every ounce of my like beingness to, I guess, support myself in that moment.
That's exactly it. Is it's new information that you haven't completely ingrained. So you're having that, I call my Navy SEAL instructional self-talk, right? Yes. That's what you were doing, and self-acknowledgement. But it was only in your head. See, we do it both ways, good and bad. Right?
Right.
Is in our own head, we think something, we don't say it needs to be said. And then you're thinking something positive. It would be great that you'd say it. But eventually, as it's becoming more memorized and you're feeling more confident, you're going to start saying that out loud. That's the reason is it was fairly new. But the point is you got it. That's what elevating the consciousness means, is that all of a sudden you were conscious in your own mind. Yeah. That you can do this. You got this, girl. Yep. Yeah.
Well, and it also it goes to your point that, like, at the end of the day, like, we really have to support ourselves and have our
Mm-hmm.
own inner self-love. And, prior to the labor and to the birth, I was like, you know, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, like, I need Cody to be there for me. And he was, and I really appreciate it. And he was the best partner in birth that I could have ever asked for. But the
Mm-hmm.
irony is, when we're in the, I intense part of labor,
Mm-hmm.
the only person there for you is you and yourself and your mind,
Mm-hmm.
because you are just so consumed by the actual physical process of labor that, at least for me, all I could hear was myself in that moment. And so I'm so glad that I had that tool of positive self-talk, because it's what got me through the last probably 10 minutes of labor.
Right. Now, okay, here's another point, Cody. Because you brought that up, her birth,
Mm-hmm.
right, was like easy peasy in a lot of ways. There's your evidence
Mm-hmm.
in a court of law, so to speak, because we can take the data. Baby one, let's talk about that. We're not talking about it, but the point is, right? Baby one, that wasn't a smooth sailing. Baby two, maybe a little smoother. You're, biologically older and wiser now, Christina. You have a third baby and it's your best to date. How does that even happen?
Mhm. Mhm.
Because you've been training for it. You've been
Mhm.
educating, you've been evolving, you've been working on yourself. And again, digging deep,
Mhm.
see why
Mhm.
baby one and baby two weren't as smooth sailing. Do you understand this? This
Mhm.
is what we do. That
Mhm.
testament, like the physical reality of, we have
Mhm.
to look at that and remind ourselves only in our own minds. We don't need to share it with anybody else unless we'd like to. Is you got to be
Mhm.
thinking, holy smokes, I'm getting better, right? Like fine wine, get better with age. Yes. That's
Mhm.
the thing you have to hang on to.
Mhm.
Um, okay, so let's talk about, again, I want to talk about how you two, get in your little tiffs and then how we work through that. Yes.
Mhm.
So, Cody, can you think of something that is worth sharing that could be helpful, in your relationship outside of the baby? Just the two of you communicating and not communicating and not listening,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, so like an example of where we're not communicating or doing the best job of communicating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. We're Cody, you're Christina's saying something and you're misinterpreting it in your own head.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And vice versa. Christina, right? Cody's saying something and you're like, "Well, what does that mean? Oh, I think it means this.
Mhm.
What is he even saying? Right?
Mhm.
I know it's hard to bring up these examples, but this is why we have to repeat it over and over so you can bring up the data when you're in those situations and I'm not there to mediate,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. Mhm.
That's what you have to start working on, is going, oh, catching it in the moment. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I have an
Yeah.
example and you can just, right, is, that second guessing ourselves. So Christina, in your mind, you were like, I can do this. I can do this. Right.
Correct.
Like
Mhm.
often you're getting to a point now, because this is what we've been working on with you, where you want to say no, but you don't say no. And then you're resentful later.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yes. And,
Yes.
and Cody,
100%.
yeah. And then Cody, you're trying to like control the future
Mm-hmm.
with your, when you start to say, well, remember this for next time. And now I want the brownie
Mm-hmm.
points. You
Mm-hmm.
see this? So let's go to Christina first, right? Christina, and
Mhm.
this is big because it's the power of no. No, thank you.
Mhm.
And Cody, for you, it's the power of no and no,
Mm-hmm.
thank you. You understand this?
Mhm.
This is very, very important. And then actually talking it out, don't take it at face value. So, dinner with friends, it's not name names, right? That last dinner with Cody's associates, right?
Yes. Yes.
And you were overwhelmed.
Yeah, I just had a lot on my plate with
Everything
and
else.
everything else, and Cody wanted me to go to dinner with friends, and internally I knew it probably wasn't the best week because I was just sort of feeling
All right,
that
don't be nice about it because we got to,
pushing.
right? Don't be
And
politically correct here.
and
It was too much. Yeah.
it was just too much for me.
Mm-hmm.
They were also friends that he knew that I didn't, so that takes another level of energy when you're meeting someone for the first time versus
Mm-hmm.
people you're comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of a last minute invite. I told Cody yes, and then I started to second guess it, and I kind of like, instead of being direct, like breadcrumbed, like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't come. Like, I'm feeling kind of tired, and um, Cody was like, "Oh, I really, really want you to go." And instead of just doing what was best for me, I let myself feel guilty, and I went anyway. And it was just
Well, then right. Let's cut to the
it was
chase.
just a pull on my energy. So then I'm more snappy at Cody after. I'm exhausted. I'm testy with the kids because in reality, I should have said no, but instead I just guilted myself into going. And then not only did I have the energy being expended to go, then I have the energy of guilt making myself do something that I didn't want to do.
Yeah. So everybody loses here. So Cody, remember your
Right.
part in this? Because I know the fight. I don't need to, you share the details you want to share. But the two of you then were triggered with each other. And then you
Mm-hmm.
started in on Cody,
Yeah.
right, Code? Uh-huh. And so then Cody, how did you end up feeling? Because she was
Well,
snappy.
walking on
You
eggshells is just the
mm-hmm.
you said it best. Nobody can win, and I should have been the one to allow. Like I could notice and see that she didn't want to go, but I really wanted her to. So I should have been the bigger person there and kind of said, "Hey, no, it's okay. Just stay back." But instead, we forced it, and it caused more of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because then the two of you were not supporting each other. You're at odds. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Complete opposite. So Cody, I'm going to ask you a question here. Why did you weren't reading the room,
Mm-hmm.
as I say? You knew she was hesitant. Nobody called the
Yeah.
shot here.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, when Tom Brady was playing football, hey, Tommy, you think you want to play this one or what do you want to do? You want to sit out? You know what I'm saying? Like somebody called
Yeah.
the shot,
Mm-hmm.
right? So why did you, in retrospect, I feel intuitively I know why. I'm just wanting to see if you know why, Code. Why did you keep pressing it with Christina? Had you missed reading the room when you know that's a a, a, a great way to
Well,
handle
I
things?
really wanted her to meet these people, and we're going to a place where she would like. Um, and I thought that would be a good, like, two positives. One, places she likes, and I really wanted her to meet these people. So I don't know the deeper root as of now.
All right, I just want to see if maybe this
Okay.
resonates. Okay. And this is like a possible open coaching
Yeah.
moment if you'd like it to
Mm-hmm.
participate. Yeah. I feel like somehow you needed her for moral support and confidence. Because it was remember when you emailed me the information, you really were bolding the word confidence, right? Because we've been
Mm-hmm.
working on that, right? You're producing results. You produce enormous results thanks to this
Mm-hmm.
coaching, because that's what it does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And yet you still doubt yourself.
Yeah.
So there had to be something deeper going on for you to force the issue when you just said you kind of knew she was on the fence about going. That
Yeah,
makes
I
sense?
can work with that and get down with that. Another reason I just wanted to expose her to the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
The other side meaning what?
just in business,
The
yeah,
business side?
the business side of real estate, and yeah, talking to other people in that game.
Okay. Because what it would look like if you were able at the time to be confident and courageous, right? And you saw your wife was on the
Hmm.
fence with going. A confident, courageous person would have said, "No, I think it's
Yeah,
too much. I can either reschedule or, hey, I got this. I'm going to go on by myself
yeah.
and have fun."
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So I have a feeling also, yeah, you want Christina to come and learn that business because she is helping you somewhat
Yeah.
in the
Hmm.
business. Yeah. But it's never about
Hmm.
topical, Cody. It's more about you having the confidence to, right, be able to handle. Because I know you were meeting with,
Some other
uh-oh,
players.
you were meeting with, yeah, business
Yeah.
associates. But that's okay. It doesn't, sorry, I had a message and I was like looking up to the sky like I do. That's why I paused. I had to, like, I saw a little message on the computer with the production. Anyway, I apologize. So I'm just putting it out there. It might not
Hmm.
resonate with you, and we don't
Yeah.
need to get into it. But the point is, you missed listening and supporting
Yeah.
Christina.
Hmm.
That's what you
Yeah.
missed.
Point deduction.
Yes. Uh huh. And that's what ends up happening is when we miss somebody else, we're only in our own heads.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. And then, Christina, you missed having the conversation with Cody to say why it feels like you're forcing this. Can we talk about
Mm-hmm.
it? Do you need more emotional support here? Or,
Mm-hmm.
it just seems like you're pushing me for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's adding more overwhelm to me. So let's talk through it.
Hmm.
You see
Mm-hmm.
that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the point is being able to listen more than be in our own heads. Yes. And to
Correct.
try to hear people from a clear
Hmm.
state. Does that
Yeah.
make sense? Mm-hmm. And that's what I really want to emphasize with what it means to be in partnership, friendship, coupleship, romantic relationships, and marriage. Marriage is, thank goodness, let's talk about that. How has, so we learn here the art of communication, the art of
Hmm.
listening. Yes. It's a huge part of transformational work, right? Creating new selves, new lives,
Hmm.
right? The communication aspect of how you two have been better at listening and seeing each other. Does anyone want to share anything there? And how you've
I
been
mean,
able, yeah, go ahead,
we've
Christina.
definitely progressed
Mm-hmm.
time. Um, Not that we still don't trigger each other
Oh, you
and
will
annoy each
to the end
other,
of time.
but
Mm-hmm.
the intensity of it has definitely lessened.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, we still have couples calls to work through our things, but they don't, they're not as like heated. There seems to be more dialogue and like conversation than finger pointing, I think.
Yes. Yes. Cody, what in the art of listening, what have you learned? Listening.
Well, when you're listening and not speaking. And you're listening from a
Mm-hmm.
place of support and empathy. and without judgment.
Mm-hmm.
So the without judgment is a big deal. Um, we as humans, not just us two, all of us have perceptive filters that we listen through. So when somebody speaks to us, it
Mm-hmm.
goes through our listening perceptive filters first, and then we process it. Well, if you're not awoke and awakened by this kind of work in the conscious evolution, you're going to listen to it in the most negative way, and maybe a way that's maybe feeling more attacked or made wrong. And when you're in that state
Mm-hmm.
of mind, you can't transcribe the message coming in, and ultimately, we found that it's um, we're not effective at communicating nor listening until you become, I guess, more aware, more awake, to realize that, oh, she's just saying this. It's not, doesn't mean I'm good or bad. It's just, this is what she's bringing up.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's excellent. Christina, do you want to say anything about that? The listening, what you've learned?
For me personally, the hardest part of listening is, like Cody said, not to take it personal
Mm-hmm.
and to listen with empathy and compassion and not listen with the intent to make my argument better when he's done speaking.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So that's the hardest part for me, who loves to
Uh-huh.
be right, uh,
Mm-hmm.
to listen with empathy, to listen with compassion, and not just like further evidence for my case.
Yeah, exactly. So that's an excellent point because the brain wants to defend and be right.
Mm-hmm.
So then the two of you are in your corners in the boxing ring,
Mm-hmm.
yeah? Trying
Right.
to defend yourselves and justify
And it's not
yourselves.
just the two of us, it's
And then
friends, colleagues, employees,
it's
customers,
everybody. It's
everybody.
that's right.
Everyone listening on this
Everybody.
call, whoever is going
Mm-hmm.
through that to some degree with another self, maybe even their own
Yes,
self.
exactly. Well, that it is our own self first. Is our brain wants us to stay in righteousness, wants us to be right in what we have
Yeah.
known, what we have known. Our habits, our behaviors, our stored emotions tied to the associations and our thoughts and
Mm-hmm.
perceptions. Okay, so definitely within ourselves, the brain says we have to be right here because we are breathing with a pulse. We survived it. We'll continue surviving it, which has nothing to do with being happy, free,
Mm-hmm.
fulfilled. Yes. So what happens
Correct.
is each of you gets triggered and then you start defending yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Cody, this is a big thing here for you.
Yeah.
Yes. Is that then you start to defend and then you start throwing out stuff that Christina doesn't want to
Mm-hmm.
hear.
Yeah.
Isn't that right? The lecturing, you're getting way better. I'm just saying in the past, right? That's what we've
Mm-hmm.
been working on.
Not a lecture.
Yeah, exactly. Is we just, like, I can't emphasize this enough. We just want to be supported and heard, and we don't even have to agree on anything. Just shut
Mm-hmm.
up and listen. Try to hear their point, right? Get in their world. Otherwise, what
Mm-hmm.
what are you in a relationship for? I don't get it. Like
Mm-hmm.
we're the bonuses and the
Mm-hmm.
prizes. And I'm saying not just you two,
Mm-hmm.
all of us, yes?
Mm-hmm.
If there's no point to be in a relationship when it constantly triggers us and we feel like we have to defend ourselves or justify
Mm-hmm.
our position. That makes no logical sense, right? How can the two of you work together cohesively, right? And be in alignment to support each other
Mm-hmm.
most of the time, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
we're about to end here, but I want to take the last few minutes for you each to recall a success, a major win in your communication as a couple. Yeah, due to you working on self first. Can you think of things?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Yeah, see that? How come you don't have that ready to go, but you know when
Mm-hmm.
you're upset?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Notice that? That was a test.
I wish it
Interesting.
filed as quickly. Wouldn't that be nice? Like, came up.
Exactly. That's why we have to represence it. That's why we actually have to talk about it and go, remember when you succeeded. Remember when, you know, it felt really good. I mean, you even had a moment in our call yesterday,
Uh-huh.
right out of the gate.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead.
I know one for me, um, like without going through too many of the details, this was just an actual conversation between Cody and I. And Cody had a lot of things going on with the business, and he was a little bit spiraling. And usually that triggers me to also start spiraling. But in that particular moment, I was able to stay, I guess, calm and just recognize, like, oh, he's going through something right now, and this has nothing to do with me. Um, and basically, to some extent, when he finished, I was like, okay, thank you for sharing. And almost like, so now what are we going to do about it? Because X, Y, and Z is not going to solve the problem. And it was just so simple and plain, and it came so natural. And the best part was, after I said it, Cody was like, oh, point. And it's
Mm.
just, I know that's very vague,
No, no,
but
no, no. That's
just
exactly what I'm looking for. That's what you
just
get. Mm-hmm.
a huge light bulb moment for me, in the sense of that I was like, oh, he's spiraling. That has nothing to do with me. He just needs to get it all out and he's going to be fine. And then even for him, the light bulb moment of, since I was calm, just being able to be like, okay, that's true. And what are we going to do about it? Because X, Y, and Z won't work. He was almost like snapped back to reality. Um, and so that was a big moment for us, because it was a maybe 10-minute thing that could have turned into like 2 weeks of bad
Yeah,
moods.
if she
Yeah.
chose to take it a different
Okay.
direction, but because she listened and was calm and let go of the outcome or the external, she could control her emotion self, and that then produced a better mood in me versus going back and forth and doing that ping pong game that couples do.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Because you didn't trigger, like Christina, you weren't.
Like, you were
Yeah.
upset,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if in that moment you were seeing clearly. I don't think you were,
He
because
was
you
not.
were so upset.
Right.
Um, and so I had a choice as the calm
Mm,
one in that moment, to either pour fuel on your upset fire
yeah.
and blow it up more, or, which I also give this as credit to the work, like, I feel like the confidence of, hey, we can figure this out. It's okay. Um, I was able to stay calm and rational in that moment. And I think that's the perk of being a couple, is like, sometimes when you're, oh, our guest star's awake, when you're down, I can be up, and vice versa.
Well, it's not so much that, is that you recognized, Christina, you recognized the upset. You recognized Cody spiraling, and you didn't take
Mm,
it
yeah.
personally. You just stayed calm,
Mm-hmm.
cool, collected.
It's good.
Yes?
Right.
Yeah. That's the key. You were super
Mhm.
conscious. You recognized
Mhm.
Cody needing support in that moment.
Right.
You actually you didn't even need to say that to yourself. You just said, "Oh, this isn't about me. This is about him. I'm
Correct.
just going to listen."
I just walked in the door. This has nothing to do with me.
Exactly. But you actually had to learn that here, right? In
Correct.
your
Mhm.
training, to even
Mhm.
recognize something that seems so stupidly simple. And yet we don't
Right.
do it as humans. The brain doesn't want us to do that. It wants us to look to fight, to keep ourselves breathing with a pulse at all times. Right? So, Cody, do you
Oh
remember
yeah.
that
Yeah,
incident?
she turned it around quickly, and that
Okay.
was a result of her own self awakening to catch that.
Exactly. Exactly. So, do you remember that pivotal moment where she actually said, "Thanks for sharing." Did you say that, Christina? Because that's brilliant right there. Do you remember saying that?
I think I did,
You
or
probably
some
did.
form of it,
Mm-hmm.
because I was calm. So
Yeah.
I have faith that I did it right.
Uh-huh. You said thanks for sharing. And Cody, do you remember that, like as you're just, you know, saying what you need to say, you remember that moment at all? It would be
Well, I mean,
helpful if
it
you
just snapped
do.
me back into reality. Like, oh yeah, no, I mean, yeah,
That
yeah,
won't solve the problem.
Exactly. But you know what really did it, Cody? Is you were able to see that because she
yeah.
wasn't defensive. She was just do, right?
Light energy. Yeah,
Chillax about it.
light and bright.
Light energy. Uh-huh. So you had permission. You were allowed, right? You didn't have to get triggered back to your past history, right? In your childhood and those relationships with your mom and dad where you felt
Mm-hmm.
like you had no voice. And you felt like you didn't have the emotional mental
Yeah.
support. And
Mm-hmm.
now you
Yeah,
have it.
that was a really good
Yes?
example that she brought up because I mean, you're already
Uh-huh.
saying this earlier of the feeling supported and heard and not listened to when it comes to listening, and so
Mhm.
she executed the play.
She did, but she didn't like start to lecture you or coach you or like be your
Yeah.
therapist or you know what I'm saying? That she was your significant
Mm-hmm.
other, your wife in that moment. Yeah, that's what you needed, and
Mm-hmm.
vice versa. Yes, is Cody, I'm emphasizing this, you being able to be that for her, for
Mm-hmm.
Christina and all people. But our significant other is going
Mm-hmm.
to trigger us the most.
Hmm.
You see that?
Well,
Mm-hmm.
and just to give credit to like the practice and the calls, like this had kind of happened, something similar had happened, like maybe on the last private call I had done with you. And so we had like worked through it, just like sometimes coming in the door and getting hit with like a spiral. And so we had practiced it on the last private call. So when it came this time, honestly, my energy was kind of like, you know what? I just had a great workout. I'm coming in on cloud nine, and this dude is not going to change my mood today. I'm going to stay free, la di da di da. And so that's just,
Mm-hmm.
we had just practiced it. So I'm sure that helped too.
Oh, for
But then
sure.
just me as an individual, not that you don't want to support your partner, but also being like, I'm not going to let this bring me down because I've got X, Y, and Z, and I'm content and happy and free. So,
Yes,
uh,
you didn't get sucked into the drama and trauma.
yes.
And that, Cody, you were in your past, in your own mind, in scarcity and fear in that
Yeah.
moment. That's what it
Mm-hmm.
comes down to. Yes? Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
And thank goodness for the loving support of Christina being able to evolve her own consciousness. Look how you won, Cody. Worth the
Yeah.
investment, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
You get a wife who's there for you the way you wished for.
Yeah, because I
Yeah?
have a wife in training. Imagine if it wasn't, and
Exactly.
that was going to be my example. Was there's, I've heard of friends of, oh, I've got to talk to my wife to do this caring work because it is costly, and that's subjective, but it's one of those that's like a non-negotiable. Yeah,
Right, for you, because it's a very high principle within, and mine too. You know what I'm saying? Like I wouldn't even be here without working on myself and
yeah,
investing everything. So thank you for that. And that's exactly right. But the point is, you're getting what you want. That's what we're talking about. You're actually then getting the very thing you wish you had in the past. You're getting it in your now. And if you have it in your now and you keep going, you get it in your future.
mm-hmm.
See how great that is? Yeah. So, Cody, do you have any last ones like that you want to share before we close
Well, it's
today?
just I like the fact that my wife Christina's on board with this type of work because I started this work probably 2 or 3 years
Mm.
before she did. and there's a compounding growth when both partners are in it, versus having one outgrow the other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. Phenomenal point. Exactly. That is, it's like, it's the same as being an athlete and someone's training more
Mm-hmm.
than the other. What's going to happen?
One's going to get cut from the team.
Yeah. And one's going to make it to the
Yeah.
major leagues. That's how I see it. Is that true?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Right. And then sometimes I'm not going to, judge people. If that's not their thing, that's fine. Right. Then this isn't for them.
Mm-hmm.
But, I guess, Cody, what would you say the biggest, in your experience, the biggest uh, thing about this coaching is always like has you stay in it and come back even? Yeah. Is there
Yeah,
anything
I
you
mean,
can
it's just a
say?
relationship, in general, the relationship to self,
Mm-hmm.
relationship to other,
Mm.
and other is many categories, domains, spouses, partners, employees. And so it's the relationship to anything and everyone, and the ability
Mm-hmm.
more so to be
Mm-hmm.
awake in certain situations to recognize and notice that your brain's trying to take you out. And so the biggest thing I've got from this work over the 4 years is the ability to course correct in the moment, and be evolved in a way where I can catch myself or catch certain triggering situations that might in the past take me out, for a couple of days.
Yeah, exactly. How about you, Christina?
I would say, I think for me, that just having, I don't know if this is the right word for it, but maybe just like the inner self confidence,
Mm.
um, to, or within myself, because obviously it all starts with the self, and so getting that confidence in myself to know that, like, whatever comes my way comes our way as a couple, like, I am awesome and I can figure it out and I have the skill set to do that. And I just, that sounds silly because we're talking like as a couple, but the growth in my self-confidence, I think, has helped me be a better person, a better communicator, a better partner, a better mother. And that's kind of what it's all about at the end of the day, is just building that within yourself so that you
Mm-hmm.
can apply that to other people. Um,
Right.
and so, um,
Yeah.
I've always, obviously Cody started this before me, but I was always very open and kind of curious about it. So for us, it just happened to all work out beautifully.
Yeah. Beyond your wildest dreams and imagination,
Mm-hmm.
because you got to think about it. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And it's really neat, like the butterfly effect, if you just sit and think like how it all came to be, like how you and Cody started with the coaching, and just if you just look at it step by step, it's all just like a bunch of tiny little miracles.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love how you say that. It's very poetic. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
just
last,
a lot of
Karen
little
had
yes.
her
little
cheetah hat
things.
on when we met her in L.A. back in 2017.
Oh, was it a cheetah hat? Yeah, yeah,
Some
yeah. It was
kind
a
of
hat
cheetah
that I
print.
actually got from the networking group. Oh no, it was a cheetah. I had a cheetah blouse and then a hat with a gold rim, like gold thing around it. Yes, yes. Oh gosh, I just want to say. And then you saw me win like that. What, $40,000
Yeah.
worth of stuff on the stage? That's what I love, because you know, and you're right. It's amazing how things happen. Like, who
Mm-hmm.
knew? And I never went to meet any clients. I'll tell you, I was just there to
Mm-hmm.
like support friends and show up. Yeah. So I want to say this, the last part, um, is what the biggest thing for me in this work is the freedom,
Yeah.
the
Mm-hmm.
inner freedom. That regardless of what's happening in my reality, in my material world, yes, in my external world, and all the circumstances that is life, that I, in my own mind, feel a sense of freedom most of the time. That's what you get, is that still, no matter what's happening, win, lose more, lose everything, win more. Yeah, I still feel free. I still feel a sense of purpose and why I'm on this planet and this earth. And, nothing outside of myself can change that, can weigh me down. Yeah. And then sending out that vibrational energy, the brain to brain radio frequency. So then what ends up happening, in short, is we put out that energy, it starts coming back because it keys into the algorithm. And now what? Life actually feels like, first, right? Feels like it's easy. It's effortless. And then what ends up happening is our material world starts to be pretty free and effortless. That's
the bottom line.
what we
That's
get here.
the answer that trumps
It is.
that kind of eats up our answers as subcategories of that.
Exactly. Right. So I just wanted to put it in a nutshell, in that this is what we sign up for. This is what we invest in and for. Yeah. And it's worth it. And it wouldn't even be a thing if it didn't have tremendous radical benefits, rewards, prizes, wins. And I will end on that. Yes. And it shows up as almost, it's miraculous, but even better, it's like magic. Yes. So I want to thank you both for being here today with me, sharing yourselves and your experiences and your insights and epiphanies to help anyone. If no one ever listens to
It helped us.
who cares?
Yeah.
You have it for you. Yeah, it did. It helped you. Cody, quickly, how did it help you today?
Letting it go with her pregnancy really clicked with me and my own stuff, because I feel, I'm not good enough at times in business and scarcity. And I mean, the first 15 minutes helped me realize I'm doing the same thing she was doing in pregnancy and business. And so what would it look like for me to just frou around all day and let go and be free?
Because your baby is your business, and you're birthing your business, and you have been, and you've done a tremendous job in reality. Okay. Far exceeded what you believed, and even what I believed could happen. I knew if you just stayed in the work, it would be fine.
Karen's wild card.
But you know what I'm saying? You started to doubt yourself and question yourself. Yeah. Yeah. And here you are. Bada bing, bada boom. Yeah. So thank you both. You're absolutely my most favorite couple on the planet. Yeah. And
I have to give baby Stassi a little shout out. She's in her kangaroo carrier, just chilling, sucking on her little her little pacifier with her little unicorn plush. Just
cool.
She was like a little angel.
Yes. And you know what? And that's because we know that we don't need to get, that's a whole nother podcast, but it's like,
it's for the next podcast.
Yeah. Well, the host mother, think about that. This baby got to be attached to you as you're transforming yourself and your life. And that's why this baby, is this baby. Yeah, exactly. And so she's absorbing all of it, and it shows because we have the data. But I can go on and on about it. The point is, it's all working beyond recognition, and give yourselves credit for doing the work, for training, as difficult as it is, because these are the radical benefits, and it's priceless. Okay. All right. So thank you both so much. I will talk to you soon. Thank you for joining me and inspiring me to do this podcast. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm a little
Thank you for having us.
Of course. And I will talk to you soon. Thank you all for listening. The power of self-evolution, the power of falling madly, passionately in love with yourself, first and foremost, having a radically loving, unconditionally loving relationship to you and your inner child and inner teenager, 0 to 19. And that's what this is all about, which then radically creates the reality that you want and wish for. So thank you for joining me, Karen Lovely, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.